founder paralysis is the inability of a founder to develop and execute a succession plan because the founder simply can't answer the question, what am I going to do for the rest of my life? If I leave, I'll die.
As human beings, we'll resist change typically if we don't believe that what's coming next is better than where we are today. I think it's an evolution.
Welcome to the Business Transition Roadmap. My name is Elizabeth Ledoux, and through my years, I have seen how communities thrive when business succession and transition are done well. Me and my team at the Transition Strategists have been helping business owners develop and implement transition strategies for over 30 years. And on this show, we want to help you by giving you the roadmap to a healthy business transition. Let's get started.
Hi, everybody, and welcome back to the Business Transition Roadmap. I'm Elizabeth Ledoux, as you all know, and today we are joined by Dennis Passis. He is the founder of the Family Wealth Library, and this is a really cool resource. It's a comprehensive resource that is specifically dedicated to helping families, advisors, and family-owned businesses navigate the complexities of wealth and leadership and generational transitions. He's got 4 decades in his own family business. His family did trade shows across the United States and Europe, so he's got lots of background. And today he's a mediator, he's an advisor, and also a thought leader in the family business space. And so I would just like to welcome Dennis, and I'm so excited that you're here today. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Elizabeth, for that beautiful introduction. I really appreciate it. And I also am happy to be here with you. Honored.
Great. Well, I think we're going to have a great conversation today. And I thought I would just ask you, I guess, let's start with you telling us a little bit about you and maybe some of the why behind founding this Family Wealth Library and what's it all about.
Sure. Happy to. Thank you. As you mentioned, I'm a businessman. I worked for 40 years in our family business. After leaving the business, I started mediating conflicts and at the same time learning about family dynamics. As a result of that learning, started the Family Wealth Library and became interested in the subject that hopefully we'll discuss today, which is founder paralysis. Even wrote a fable called Founder Paralysis.
Yeah, I guess why don't we kind of dive into that? I know that being an author is it's an interesting journey in itself. Writing a book, it takes a lot of dedication to do that. So what drove you to write and to publish that book?
Well, what was so interesting as I was accumulating all of the information for the Family Wealth Library, I noticed that there was little or nothing written about the founder and their struggles dealing with succession. I decided to fill that void and called it Founder Paralysis.
So when you're doing that research and investigating it, what did you find? And again, when you think about founder paralysis, what is that?
Well, simply put, it is the inability of a founder to develop and execute a succession plan. Why does that happen? It happens because the founder simply can't answer the question, what am I going to do for the rest of my life if I leave the business that I created?
What a big question that is. You and I mean, we work in the same space, and I've been doing this for about 3 decades, so you're ahead of me on that one. But I'm only 3, you're 4, so you got me beat. But it is so interesting to see just you could say, what am I going to do in my next adventure or that next era of my life, but also up to and including, I literally just had a conversation with he's a successor who's going to need to transition out of this role and out of the company that and everything that he's built over the last probably 25 years in his family business. And he's like, well, if I leave, if I leave those things, it's just going to crumble in front of me. And so there's as much of what am I going to do in my next adventure to letting go and not having everything crumble in front of you. Both are paralyzing.
Well, there's no question that you're right about that. If we could, just for the moment, separate those two ideas and talk first of all, in the case of your example, I would be asking him, why does he think it's going to crumble? Where's the bench? If it hasn't been developed, and what's stopping you from developing that bench so that the effort that you put forth over the past 25 years isn't going to vaporize when you leave. The second part is really the what's next question. And for founders, and I generally deal with people who are founders who are between 65 and 80. And I'm a little bit past that age group. Let people guess which side I fall.
Sure.
But in that particular age group, where they are the actual creators, the what's next question is really about what do they want to fix. Founders are fixers. And when they started their business, they were fixing a problem. If they've traveled through life, they have probably seen other problems that they knew they had some ability to fix, but they didn't have the time because the business that they created, plus the family time, that takes up all of their time, and they simply have no bandwidth to be able to handle any other problems. But now, at this later stage of adulthood, when they're actually considering succession, we've got to help them answer the question, what's next? And let's start talking about those problems that they believe they can fix. And they can be in any area. It could be in their original business, but just in a separate area of the original business. Or it can be philanthropic, or it could be social, it could be justice, it could be anything. But let's start having a conversation about that. So those are the two areas that you're presenting that
Yeah.
are really meaty conversations.
They really are. They really are. So I love talking about what's next and because I do think this is just my opinion, but when founders I call them transitioners because some of the people are now old enough to be a successor and also transitioning, amazingly enough. So but if you think about what's next for those founder transitioners, it's my opinion that typically they don't really sometimes think of themselves as much as they're thinking about the business and others and, how to keep it whole and how to do that. And don't take the time to actually reflect on what's going to make them whole, happy, and fulfilled. Also, how they're going to fit back into the family as they start to shift out of the business and their focus, right? So what do you think about that?
Well, first of all, you're absolutely right. They have spent a lifetime building. They have devoted well over 90% of their energies to thinking about nothing but building their business. That has implications for family, but it does mean that they haven't given a moment's thought to what makes them whole. In many cases, they truly believe that what makes them whole is staying in the business. It's part of the paralysis syndrome that we really deal with all the time. And honestly, in my opinion, the only way to help them have a broader view of life is to start asking questions that pertain to what are the problems that they see out there that they want to fix. And it's important, I think, to get them to realize that it can be in another aspect of the business that they created. There might be a whole nother area out there that, because they're spending all of their energies on what is, they've not given much thought to what can be for the business. So,
Yeah.
we're not trying to close their mind to aspects of the business that they created. We're just simply trying to broaden their outlook. And they need questions that are going to help them start to think about what are the other things that they can fix. And I love that word fix, because that's founders do. We can call
Yeah,
it,
absolutely.
we can call it scratching the itch. There are a lot of ways to phrase it, but that's what's happening.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think you really nailed that. And so, how do you, I guess, what are some of the signs that a founder might be holding on too long? When you think about that, like the paralysis of, letting go or finding your next adventure, finding that next thing. How do you know what are some signs that they're staying too long and that they should start to do some of this work?
I'll use my dad as an example. If I leave, I'll die.
I have heard that so often.
That's right.
That's a good one. Yeah.
So that's a good first sign.
Yeah.
Other signs. Take a look at the bench. How are people operating the company without going into the founder's office?
Yeah.
Is the founder always the answer man? It means, when you see that, it means that A, there isn't really much delegation. B, the founder is paying attention to every minute detail. And quite frankly, people become fearful of doing their job without knowing for certain whether the founder approves of what their next step is. When you start things like that in a business, then you know that the founder is keeping control of all aspects very close to them. And
Yeah.
that really is, it's one thing when you're just starting out. You don't have many people, you're watching over everything. But when you're 25, 30 years or more into operating this business, and you have far more people, and you have people with responsibilities that you've given them, and then you're not letting them exercise those responsibilities without your direct approval. Ouch. You certainly have not created the kind of capable bench that is necessary to operate the business while you go on a vacation for a week.
Ooh.
And those are pretty visible signs that there's going to be a real problem.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm curious, do you find founder paralysis that it's ego driven, or do you find that there are other deeper fears underneath that are just not spoken or not talked about?
What I believe is that, and what I've seen is, if we don't, as advisors, help the founder understand that what's holding him back is the inability to answer the question, what am I going to do for the rest of my life? Everything, I believe, follows from the inability to answer that question. And once that question starts to get answered, all of a sudden, their attention is really drawn to what the next thing is that they can do. No one wants to be known as a one-trick pony. And as soon as the founder is helped to see that there is something bigger out there that he can concentrate on, all of a sudden there's an energy. It's almost as though they're starting a new business. But they have
Kind of is like that.
they have this 20 or to 30 or 50 years of experience behind them. And it's sort of like putting a hot knife through butter, frozen butter.
Wow.
It really, it energizes them. I've seen it time and time again in all sorts of arenas.
Yeah.
It's beautiful to see, because you've helped them find, in a sense, a new life. And they're not leaving the old life behind. They're taking it along with them. Now their ego is better satisfied, if you will. It's all part of them flourishing in this later stage of adulthood. And we, as advisors, helping them see, I'll call it the bigger picture. However they want to define it, it's their picture, not ours. But helping them see that it's possible. I mean, the founder that has developed a successful enterprise at this stage in his life, that founder is many times, and this can be considered a swear word, is many times the administrator.
And that is so boring for them.
That's right. Not the entrepreneur.
Yeah, that is not.
Yeah. No. I mean, they're dealing with HR issues. They're dealing with capital allocation issues, dealing with a whole host of maybe regulatory issues. Ooh, I got started to fix a particular problem. I just want to fix another problem.
Oh, yeah, I get it. It's interesting because years ago I had a great business partner who was a PhD psychologist. And that's where some of our work comes from, is actually knowing and understanding what you want and what we call, right? What's next, we call it the next adventure.
Yep.
And the one thing that he told me as human beings is that we as human beings will resist change typically, but it will significantly resist it if we don't believe that what's coming next is better than where we are today. So what's next for you, if there's not an emotional attachment in your heart or in your thoughts, about that this is going to be amazing. It's going to be great. You're going to have a big impact. It's going to be awesome to be able to get up in the morning and awesome to be able to do the fun things that you get to do in life. You typically won't leave your company. You typically won't want to do that because what you have is better than your future may be. So that belief system, right, and envisioning it is so, I think, important to an owner's ability to be able to shift.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, this is the core of I believe, and what's happening is you're helping someone find their calling.
Well said.
That is,
Well said.
it's really, it's such a powerful attribute to be able to help somebody create.
Yeah. And there's a whole discovery. I don't think that people just, sometimes you can wake up and go, oh yeah, this is what I'm supposed to do tomorrow. That's different from what I'm doing today. But I think it's an evolution, and it's a discovery. It's like a self-discovery that you get to start to open your mind, open your heart, imagine what might be possible for you in your life outside of the business. And how long do you think how long does that take? How long should people allow for that process to happen?
Huh.
How long can that take?
I personally wouldn't put a time limit on it. I think it's an extraordinarily frustrating um, uh, experience to go through, and it's really important that the founder or the successor going through transition um, uh, have somebody by their side because it becomes trial and error. And in a sense, it's no different than when they were 25 or 30 years old and they had an idea for a new business and it didn't work out. But then all of a sudden,
Mm,
they understood why it didn't work out and they look at the issue differently. And so they start again. Uh, at this stage in later adulthood, they need somebody by their side uh, that they can talk to and help work things out so that there's always constant encouragement to keep on trying something new.
that's so well said. You end up with what you made me think about is just the concept of, I think, if I'm in my 20s or 30s and I am fortunate enough to have my parents or a grandparent or a, a professor at school or somebody around me, I've got that community around me and I've got the infrastructure to
Right.
help me and do that. But I think as you get a little bit older, maybe 60s, 70s, you really don't have that community around you anymore. And especially if you're an entrepreneur, a founder, an owner, that's pretty isolated.
Uh, you know, you're mentioning something that I honestly didn't even realize until I started writing my book. And that's when I realized how alone my father was as he was dealing with this issue of succession. You're so right. At this stage in their life, the founder is isolated. The normal trusted advisors that they have, whether they're attorneys or of various types, or CPAs, or bankers, or insurance people, or even friends, it's just so important that they have somebody who has an understanding of the the perceived losses that they're experiencing as they're going through just the thought process. And in fact, I think you've written about it. Avoidance of this issue is the greatest danger, and avoidance is natural because of the isolation that they find themselves in, and not having anybody who understands what's happening for them to talk to.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So, I try to keep us on time here, and our time always goes so quickly. And this has been just a fantastic conversation about founder owners trying to figure out what's next for them, and giving them maybe a reason for wanting to leave, and that founder paralysis in your book that you so kindly wrote for all of us.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, so I always like, Dennis, to leave our audience with one thing. So what one thing would you like to leave with them to take away or remember going forward?
Wow. I don't get a chance to really talk about what our ultimate goal is, so thank you. Our ultimate goal is to help the founder flourish in this later stage of adulthood. And what is so, I believe, beautiful is when you help somebody find their calling. Not only do they flourish, but their families flourish too. And that carries on through multiple generations.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Very well said. So, Dennis, thank you so much for being with us today. And his book called Founder Paralysis, they'll be in the show notes, how you find Dennis, how you find his book, and just appreciate you bringing forward the what's next for everyone, because it is so important. And life is incredible. So why not live your best life ever, in my opinion?
You're absolutely right. And thank you for the opportunity. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Business Transition Roadmap. If you're ready to start shaping your own transition strategy, which I'm really hoping that you are, our team at the Transition Strategists would love to offer you a free discovery strategy session where you can explore what might be good for you and just some new ideas. We've got a new perspective and a new approach with people first. And a lot of what we talk about, nobody has ever really done before. So I want to encourage you to think about that and to go to transitionstrategist.com/discovery to schedule your call if you are even curious. It's free, no pressure. We'd love to talk to you. And by the way, if you're a successor or if you've got one in your business, you'll also want to check out for sure Your Next Gen Friend, A Successor's Guide to Business Transition. It's a podcast that's hosted by my successor, Andrea Carpenter. She's incredible. And this one is specifically designed for rising leaders in family businesses. So thanks again for listening. I'll see you next time on the Business Transition Roadmap.